everybody. I hope you're all well. Thank you for joining our latest Wellingtone webinar, free community event to join, to learn, share and grow. Today we're going to be talking about the PMO development pathway according to our experience and our academy. If you're joining us for the first time, my name is Arnaz-Pemberton. I'm the Director of Consulting Services at Wellingtone. If you don't know Wellingtone, we are a project management consultancy firm. We have our head office in the UK in Windsor. We have an office in Dublin and an office in Madrid as well. Our mission is to enable our clients and learners to make a step change in their maturity, their capability. And we do that through a variety of things. We deploy Microsoft technology, so we are a Microsoft Gold partner with the project management specialism. We spend a lot of time doing consultancy, so PMO maturity assessment, developing project management frameworks and structures. And we have our Wellingtone Academy, and that encompasses a lot of what we're going to talk about today, which is specific for PMOs, but also lots of other complementary skills. We're going to discover the Wellingtone career personas, as we call them. We're going to understand the pathway for PMOs, learn about how do we specialize and what that actually means, and identify how to take the next step. So hopefully this is going to help you on your path, regardless of where you are, whether you're brand new to PMO or whether you've been around for ages and just want to hone some specific skills. So let's talk a bit about our Wellingtone career personas. So we developed this because we found through our training academy that we have lots of different kind of profiles of people that come through that want to learn different things. And after speaking to our community, I call them our PMO hive mind for those Star Trek aficionados, we found that people are driven by lots of different things, and that kind of helps us to identify, what am I trying to achieve? What kind of learner am I? And how then can Wellingtone and the Academy and the events help me? So we start off looking at our profiles. So we have people who are very much integrators. They're really about interacting with like-minded professionals. So they're really kind of developed through gathering insights, sharing experiences, being very, very active with their immediate community. So for integrators, we find that they tend to be very focused, very passionate about things like change management, the people side of change. We always say people deliver projects, and the change management conversation is definitely growing in popularity right now, as we continue to kind of live in this hybrid world and evolve as that and kind of support our people through the changes that are happening. In PMOs, that's particularly tricky because sometimes we are being affected by the change, but we're also affecting the change. So change management is becoming much, much more important. So we find the people in our community that we would say definitely an integrator, they're going to be really focused on that people side of change. The next one that we have is a credentialist, as we've called it. So these people usually are very driven on obtaining standards and methods. So you know, they really want the badges, they want the professional development. So they're really focused on frameworks. That's what helps them to deliver projects, to deliver their PMO, to develop the project management practice. And so things like risk management, those really specific processes are going to be really important to this kind of person. Then we have our climbers, and this is about somebody building a professional brand. So who am I in my industry? How do people recognize and know me and what I'm about? And those people tend to be really focused on connection. So really creating a wider network of peers and getting some recognition for the work that they're doing. With this kind of person, we're probably going to start seeing some input into the industry through LinkedIn and getting involved in groups and maybe even responding to some of those new kind of LinkedIn collaboration articles. Climbers are all about building that personal brand. With that comes the reputation element. So things like assurance are going to be really important. Learning lessons, not just identifying them, but learning lessons is going to be super important in their projects and in their PMOs, because it all is wrapped up in how do people perceive me as a professional in my organization or in my industry. Next, we have our leaders. So these people are driven by managing teams and people and helping others to succeed. So really it's about developing existing skills and creating a real support network to make sure that our PMOs are working at the level that they should, they're operating efficiently, and they're also supporting the people within those structures. So in this case, we're really kind of looking at sponsorship, where, you know, these people are very keen on honing their leadership and sponsorship skills. And we know that that is an issue, if we call it that, within the industry, that we have lots of sponsors who have never really been educated as to what the role of a sponsor is. But this is what this kind of person is really driving towards, to be able to elevate themselves, to really motivate the teams and the people that are delivering the projects in the PMO. Next, we have our connoisseurs. So connoisseurs are about inspiring others to succeed. So not just motivating them, but really making sure that we're inspiring them through action, through behavior, and the way that we interact with others. So this is about promoting and advancing the profession. This is about giving back to the community. So these people we tend to find are very focused on the wider knowledge management. So almost taking those lessons learned and how do we apply that to our organization and our industry to drive that continuous improvement conversation. So they really want to give back value, social value almost, to their communities, whether they are internal or external. And then lastly, we have our masters. So people who want to be masters, this is now about giving back to the profession. So, you know, they're going to be leading communities probably and sharing their experience and their wisdom with the wider community. We find that masters are very passionate about communities of practice. So really creating that safe space for the community to learn, share and grow. So we did this to kind of support people in the conversations of, you know, what values are you being driven by? What is it that you're trying to achieve? And this allows us and helps us to kind of create a path for each individual learner almost. Now, from a PMO perspective, we need to understand kind of the technical pathway as well, because it is a combination, or it will be a combination of that technical pathway. What are the specific things I need to know and do, with kind of coupled or balanced with what am I trying to achieve as an individual. And before I move from this slide, I think it's one of the key things for me is always like know yourself, like what are you trying to achieve within your career, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. So according to our Wellingtone Competence Framework, this is a competence framework. You can download some aspects of it for free on our website to kind of test your PMO skills almost and see where you are. We kind of see people going through kind of 6 different stages. The first one is where we have kind of people in the organization who are completely oblivious to the fact that a PMO even exists. So we've drawn a line there and kind of gone, once they get indoctrinated, if you like, into projects, they obviously will become more aware. But we do find that there is a cache of people who are just not aware that this is even a thing, which makes us really sad, but it is true. And we know that it is improving in the industry. I think the latest PMI's Pulse of the Profession report has reported that 90% of organizations have 1 or more PMOs. So it's definitely growing. I think we see that pushback more from an individual level rather than an organizational level, I hope, anyway. So then we kind of start seeing the different kinds of roles that we might see. Now, we are going to talk about roles. We're very passionate about roles in PMOs because we'll see later, there's a vast array. So we've put some examples here so that you can kind of bring it to life a little bit and tie it to your organization specifically. But we have people who we kind of start off as aware of PMO and project management. So we tend to see in this space, like people who have been seconded into a project, who are new or coming into project support, graduates maybe who are just kind of exploring the industry. Then we kind of move into the competence space, which is there where we see roles like PMO officers, PMO admin, delivery managers as well, who are maybe newer into the industry. At the practitioner level, we're starting to see PMO managers, officers, delivery managers, so your project program managers. And then we move into the connoisseur space, which is where we start to see the heads off. Again, we have PMO managers and officers because they, depending on the role and their experience, they can sit in both. And then at the master level, we've got some examples. Quite often we see head of profession, directors, and again, PMO managers can be in that. The key is their level of involvement and understanding. So we can see at the master level, it's about demonstrating that thought leadership, that innovation, as opposed to somebody that has a working knowledge of the function itself. Some organizations have then chosen to develop role-specific training to encourage individuals to join and continue to spend their precious budget every time that they kind of move their role, or their role moves or changes either vertically or laterally. From a role perspective, Wellingtone only differentiates when it comes to leadership, because although the roles might be different according to whatever book we open, the reality is that in most PMOs, you're going to wear various hats at any one time. Individuals might have the role of administrator written on their contract, but they likely spend time each day supporting project managers with their queries, maybe more of an officer role or reviewing data for governance boards, maybe more of an analyst. So because the role of the PMO team is so varied, day by day, even hour by hour, for us it seems counterintuitive to provide individuals with limited training based on their current role and not give them the tools to develop towards the future. So for us, this leads directly to individuals falling foul of what we call the Peter Principle, which some of you have probably heard before. And the Peter Principle states that people are promoted based on their current output, not what they can achieve, leading them to be promoted to their level of incompetence. So with that in mind, the Wellingtone PMO Academy acknowledges that there are many other courses out there that will provide a generic introduction to being an administrator or an analyst, but instead we allow learners to focus on their complete journey, allowing freedom and flexibility, but importantly, giving the foundations to become a successful PMO practitioner and leader. So our path can take professionals from a complete novice, as we can see here, with the right amount of PMO knowledge at each point, with our specialism courses, which add the nuances to their specific individual reality. So we're quite passionate about this, as you can tell. And our three core courses are our PMO Explorer, which is designed to kind of give people that exploration of PMO and what it is and whether it's right for them. Our PMO Practitioners, which is one of our most popular courses, which is for anybody that's moving into already working in a PMO who want to either transform a PMO that they have or create something brand new. And then we have our PMO Leader course, which then really hones in on some of the dark arts of PMO, like resource prioritization, building culture, like communities of practice, leadership skills, benefits realization. So really focusing in on the things that leaders need to be a bit more aware of. To give you an example of what I've just said, we have here 3 examples of roles that we see in organizations. So we can see here in the middle, the red, we have 3 roles. On the outsides of each of these, we have 3 different organizations. And this is just to kind of really prove the point that a PMO analyst role in organization 1 could be all about identifying trends. In organization 2, their role might be tracking benefits. And in the 3rd organization, it might be simply collecting data for reporting. So straight away, we can see, depending on the organization and your reality, you might have the same role title as somebody in another organization, but you could be doing a completely separate job. At the PMO officer, we can see this is a very common role again, and we can see that sometimes those are really focused on reporting. Other times it's training, And in other organizations, it might be just supporting the project managers on a day-to-day basis. And then the admin, you can go and learn to be an administrator from any big organization, but the reality is PMO administrator in some cases is about booking meetings and travel. In another one, it's about managing events. In another one, again, it's the ad hoc support for project managers and program managers. So this is why at Wellington, we don't differentiate. And when people pick up the phone and say, I want a PMO analyst course, it's like, well, that's fine. You can go and become an analyst, and it's going to give you the whole scope of what it means to be an analyst. And then you can apply those specific skills to the PMO reality, as opposed to pigeonholing people into this is what a PMO analyst does, and then actually not giving you maybe some of the skills that you need to be an effective analyst in 1, 2, or 3 organizations. So that's why we're quite passionate about this. So within our pathway, if you like, the things that we can add in terms of nuances are what we call specializations. So here we have a few examples. So change management, we could be a PMO officer with change management specialism. We've got agile, we have assurance, we have risk, we have sponsorship. So depending on the reality of the role might mean that assurance is actually really important for this particular role. Not because that's what a PMO administrator does, but because that's the reality of my PMO. When you start thinking about specialisms, it's important to note that the specialisms themselves can move you up the PMO ranks themselves. So we can see, we can actually almost gain experience points, if we want to call them that, and knowledge to be able to allow us to elevate to that next level, whatever we want that level to be. So it isn't just about the technical mechanics of being a PMO person, but it's also about what does my PMO need? Now we can see here 2 PMOs side by side. If we look at PMO 1, it's considered a center of competence with training, coaching, and mentoring. It's hosts community events regularly, and it supports the creation of and collects data on project status and benefits realization. In that PMO, there is probably a coach, a trainer, an analyst, a benefits manager, as well as some other roles. The second PMO is also respected as a center of competence, and it hosts community events regularly. It collects data on status and creates a portfolio view, but is not actually involved in the creation of that view or those reports. It also delivers assurance activities to provide confidence regarding the risk profile of the portfolio. So somebody transitioning from the first PMO who maybe has had a specific PMO analyst training because of their benefits realization piece that they needed to do, moving into PMO 2, they might find themselves a little bit kind of a fish out of water, because PMO 2 probably has an analyst, but it also needs assurance and risk specialists. It also requires PMO officers who are going to collate that information to provide it to the portfolio team. So hopefully we can kind of see that from our perspective, it's the people that make the PMO. It isn't always something that we can take out of a book and apply. This is the kind of PMO. In fact, in our training, we talk about, we don't believe in types of PMO. The nature of yours will be different to the nature of the other people who are on this webinar, for example. So by honing in on a specific role title and saying these are your roles, you're actually hampering people from being able to transition into different roles with a different organization, but also being able to evolve the PMO with the skills that we have. So the key for us is remembering that Peter principle. People get promoted to their level of incompetence. So we need to start developing future skills now. So it's important not to be afraid to say that you don't want to do something. Know yourself and where you want to go, and acknowledge that the same path is not right for everybody. You're unique. That's okay. If you love risk, then do something about it. Some people don't want that seniority. They don't want to get to kind of that master level. They're quite happy doing what they're doing, but they would like some specialism skills so that they can have more variety in their role. And make positive connections to actually get this done. So, you know, networking events to create that positive influence on your journey. There are lots of mentoring schemes, there are lots of networks out there, and make sure that whilst we're doing all of this, that we don't remove negativity, or that we do remove negativity, I should say, from your network as well. You know, some people are comfortable where they are and they want you to stay where you are. If you know yourself and where you want to go, and you know that you want to get to, you know, whatever level of PMO insight, then you do that. Use the network and the skills and the events that are available for you to do that. The first thing that we always say in terms of next steps when it comes to this is, first of all, speak to your line manager. If this has really made you think like, yeah, I feel like I'm a PMO analyst, but if I went and did a PMO analyst somewhere else, that would be a totally different job, potentially. So speak to your line manager about what it is that you want to achieve. If this is your first event with Wellingtone, then make sure you join our Wellingtone Future PMO community, because we do 2 to 3 events free every month on lots of different topics. Some are like this, like a webinar, which is kind of more one way. And then we also have our networking events, which are very much designed to be a conversation. So utilize that to hone and find the bits that you're interested in, that you feel that's going to really help me on my PMO path. If you join the community, you also have access to our Dr. PMO clinic. Free from sales, completely agnostic. You can book 30 minutes with a specialist to talk about your next steps. And I've mentioned our free events already. But the other thing to consider is the APM, the Association for Project Management, who are the chartered body for our profession. They have a free mentoring scheme. So, you know, if you're really not sure, go and find a mentor who can actually help you through these conversations. And before we go to questions, we always say kind of make sure that you stay in touch. So, you know, keep that conversation going throughout your path, wherever you are on that path, both with your line manager, but also with Wellingtone, because we are genuinely here to help in a non-salesy space. But I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you at one of our next events. Thank you.